Welcome back to this next session, which is called Keep Creative, Stay Independent, and Make Money, turning a fan base into a membership. And we are really thrilled to have Wyatt Jenkins here. He is Patron's SVP of Product, is in charge of developing a world-class business platform that will fund the creative community by delivering a steady and recurring income. I'm going to let you take it off.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks everyone. Cool. Okay, thanks everyone. My name is Wyatt Jenkins. I'm the head of product for Patreon, and I appreciate the chance to speak to all of you. Patreon's about 6 years old. We've been building this membership platform for a while for creators, and I want to help all of you understand what we're about. If there's 3 things you remember from my presentation, these are the 3 I want you to remember. That's it. Number 1, art is valuable. It is, and that means music, that means photography. This is really valuable. You wouldn't think we believe that if you look at the way the internet is built. The internet is broken. It's fucked. And we believe that deeply at Patreon. It doesn't place the proper value on art, but not just on art, but on the people that create art. The third point I'd love for you to remember, if you remember anything from my presentation, is that a lot of fans today, they want a connection not just to the art, but to the person who makes the art. And that's a big change. When I was growing up and I had my superstars in my life when I was younger, a lot of them were these mysterious creatures who would sit in a cave somewhere and make albums, and I would just honor the album as though it was on high. That's not the way it works today, folks. People really want a connection to not just the song or the MP3 or the image. They want to know who makes it, and they want to know why they make it, because that's the interesting, unique connection. So if you remember anything from my presentation, it's those 3 things. A little background about me. I was a DJ and an electronic musician. Most of the 90s, a little bit of the 2000s. And so I have a personal connection to the mission of Patreon and this company. I'll give you a couple stories. I was traveling around the world playing raves and clubs and all this kind of thing, and the money was really volatile. I would get a bunch of gigs for 6 months and think I'm on top of the world, and then everything would dry up for a little while, and I had to wait tables to make ends meet and figure that out. This was my life as an artist and a musician, right? I'm on top of the world, I got gigs, I got a record that's starting to sell, and then 6 months later, I have no idea how I'm going to make my rent. This never hit home more than sometime, I think around 1999, I had a good year. I had a really good year as an artist and a musician, and I wanted to buy a house. I made enough money, I was ready to buy a home. And I went to the bank, and I tried to get a loan to buy a house. And what happened was, I didn't have pay stubs or any of that stuff, and the bank wouldn't give me a loan for my home. So that was that moment in my career. It's probably about 8 or 9 years into being an electronic musician that I said, wow, I'm not a part of the system. I'm like something else. I'm over here. The system's over here. If I worked at the post office and I went to work every day, I could have bought a home. But being an artist and being a musician, it's not going to work. That I still have that inside me, and that's one of the reasons that fuels what we do at Patreon. My career's kind of weird. I spent all this time being a DJ and a musician. I was part of the founding team of a company called Beatport.com, which some of you might be familiar with here in Europe. That was really fun. 2003, when MP3 downloads were just starting. It was a really fun business. I left, and then I kind of moved into the business world. I figured out how to build a company, Beatport, and I liked that part too. I liked building companies. So I joined Shutterstock in 2009, took that public in 2012, a couple short stints at Optimizely and Hired, and now today I really found my sweet spot at Patreon, where I get to connect my love of building companies and my love of helping fund the creative class. So let's get back to my main points here. Remember the promise of the internet in the 90s? Oh man, the internet's going to be so cool. I used to sit around with my musician friends and say, imagine the internet's coming. We're not going to need major labels anymore. It's going to be great. We're just going to connect directly to our fans, and we're going to monetize directly. There's going to be no middlemen. The internet's going to be so awesome. That is not what we got. This is not the way the internet works. Today we have gatekeepers and we have middlemen and walled gardens on the internet. This is not what it was supposed to be about. I mean, that being said, look, the internet has done amazing things for artists and creators. An artist just starting out can get huge reach. You can find a massive audience globally if you do something really interesting. You can find easy and affordable access to different types of technology to help you create music. I mean, a lot has happened on the internet that's great, but a lot has happened on the internet that's not great. Because this is sort of what we got, right? Like before you saw what an artist creating something and sharing it with somebody, and this is the experience we have today. What we have is we have an ad-fueled attention economy that essentially turns art, things that a lot of people in this room make, into content. Those companies, they don't see it as a piece of art or they see the person that makes the art, they see a piece of content that drives ad revenue. And, fine, that's okay if the artists were getting like a decent chunk of that ad revenue, but that's actually not the case either, right? Most of us are getting a fraction of a penny or something based on this ad-fueled economy. And I guess, people say that that's just the way it is. And I guess this is what we talk about a lot at Patreon, right? Patreon was started by a creator, Jack Conte, and we just think this is the wrong way to do it. So never is this more clear. This is a survey done in the United States, but I think it's relevant. It was the average income of artists, independent artists. This was musicians, by the way. Independent artists' average income was $12,000 a year. Label artists were a whopping $23,000 a year. This is the average in this group. That means there's obviously people making a lot of money and people making very little money. But clearly, this ad-driven economy is not doing it for artists. There has to be a better way. So anyway, Patreon, back to what we believe. We think art is valuable. We think the way people spend their time, everyone's glued to their phone. They're staring at it. What are they staring at? They're staring at art. They're staring at like unique connection. They're staring at people who do something interesting, make a cool song, an image. We think this system's broken, and we think it's time to do something different. The tech has just recently got there. It's just only in the last few years that the technology has gotten to the point where you don't need the gatekeepers. You can actually, create your own membership. And that's really what Patreon's all about. Patreon is about financial independence for artists so that you have something that's stable and reliable and lasts a long period of time. And Patreon is about creating a new creative economy. When I think about the next decade, I think about what do people value? What are they going to put their money towards? It's experiences with art. It's experiences with friends and family. Those are things that we value. So you can imagine, it's the last 30 years, the internet has driven down the value of art, and the next 10 to 20 years, I think it's going to swing back the other direction. So let's talk about Patreon a little bit. This is a company founded by creators, for creators. I say creators because, it's not just about music, Patreon. We have YouTubers, we have podcasters, we have illustrators, but we have a big chunk of musicians too. Our mission at Patreon is to fund the creative class. We exist to fuel the new creative economy. The way that we do this is with a thing called membership. The way you can think about it in the music industry is like a next-gen fan club, right? It's the next variation of what the old fan clubs were. We had this big Patreon assembly thing last weekend. It was in a bunch of different cities. And Killer Mike, this hip-hop artist, was one of the folks we interviewed. Killer Mike had this amazing quote. I'll read it because it was just last weekend. Killer Mike said, "I have fans and I have supporters. The supporters stick around with me my whole career. They're the people that really love what I do. The fans, well, it depends on the album. It depends on the channel. They come and go, the fans. But those supporters are there throughout my entire career." Almost every artist has that group of supporters. You have those people that are true fans, that really love what you do. And that's what Patreon is about, building a membership platform for. Cool. And I think, this is the way we say it. This is like our narrative around membership. Membership is a business model between a creator and their super fans. It's not for all your fans. If you have 1 million Instagram followers, cool, but they're not all going to be your members. They're not all going to be really serious about what you do. There's a long-term value-for-value trade between creators and their members. Passionate fans become members who provide monthly subscription fees in exchange for unique benefits. The benefits have to be unique. They have to be something really cool. You want your fan or your member to say, I'm a part of this membership, and it's really cool because of X. And that's up for y'all to create. You have to create that unique connection between you and your fans. Those benefits can be tangible. Sometimes it's merch or exclusive content. But honestly, more often it's intangible. It's support. It's recognition. It's just telling them, thank you. I'm glad you became a member. It's access to the creator. The result is a loyal and enduring relationship that benefits both. This is membership. And really, technology has just gotten to the point where we can do this. We're a payments platform. We have video. There's like all these different methods of communication, posting, and messaging. We couldn't have done all this a few years back. It's only in the last few years that this is possible. You don't need millions of followers on a social channel. You need 1,000 true fans. If you have 1,000 true fans, Patreon is awesome for you. By the numbers, founded by Jack. He's a YouTuber. Jack's story is amazing. He was a YouTuber who dumped his whole life savings into this amazing video. It was like professionally produced. I think he spent like 30 grand on it or something like that. And he put it on YouTube. It was a runaway success. I think it was like 8 or 9 million views. And then he got his check at the end of the month, and it was like $118 or something. He's like, what is this? This can't be the way this works. And that's why he launched Patreon. And he just started asking his fans directly, I want to make high-quality stuff like this, and I want to keep making it. Will you come along for the ride with me? Today, we serve about 120,000 creators and 3.5 million what we call patrons. Patrons are fans on other social channels that have decided to become a part of your crew. We've sent over $1 billion to creators at this point. And Patreon takes roughly 10% of that. So when you think about starting a membership, the artist gets 90%. That's the way it's supposed to work. You're the ones making the stuff. All right. This is a slide we use a lot to describe all the different reasons people join a membership. Membership is an old concept. It's just that now it's just possible on the internet to do all this. I'm a member of the Met, New York, for example. That's a different type of membership. But there's lots of different reasons people are part of a membership. For example, some people just do it altruistically. They just really, really like the artist. They think the artist is great. They want them to keep doing what they're doing. Some people want stuff. They want merch. They want subscription. They want content on a regular basis. Some creators have a gated community where they have their own like Discord server or something, and they have a community that you're only able to access if you become a member. And in that community, it's really supportive and nurturing because these are people that have all selected to become a member and have gotten through a paywall. Some folks do involvement. Sometimes I see musicians take a half-finished song and they share it with all their patrons, and they ask them, hey, which direction should I take this? Like, what should I do? Not every musician's like that. I get it. But a lot of folks are. Enough about high-minded, like our philosophy and about what a membership is. You can check that out online. I thought it would be really interesting to spend the last bit of this just showing examples of memberships between creators and their biggest fans. This is an artist, Zola Jesus, and she has a $5, $25, $50 one, and it's going great for her. She does exclusive patron-only merch in the $5 tier. She does tickets to concerts, personal thank yous in the $25 tier, and access to her private community, which is a Zola Jesus Discord community. And then at the higher tier, 2 free tickets, first to hear about upcoming releases, access to the actual remix stems for the work. So this is like a way that you could think about, depending on what your fans want. Like everyone's different, but this is one way to think about how a membership can work. I love this. Recently, she did a live stream from the forest, and she went out there and she just played a concert only for her patrons. That's cool. If you're a patron of that creator, how cool is that? You get to tell your friends that, yeah, I saw this private live stream that was only for us. That's the type of unique thing that really drives a connection between a creator and their fans. Neubauten is on Patreon. And Neubauten, they've been doing this for a long time. They were doing self-funded or direct-to-fan back in 2003. So it was kind of a no-brainer for Neubauten to join Patreon. But you can see this quote here by Blitzer. We want to make another album. We don't want to do it via contract with a record label. So therefore, we're asking for you to support the band during the working process so we can, well, work. And it's great. I'm actually a member of this. And what I get like constant updates. I get behind the scenes. I see their work process. It's really cool. I enjoy seeing what they do and seeing how they make the music that they do. Kimbra. This is Kimbra's Instagram recently. Happy Thursday. Have you heard my new song yet? It's called Secret Tapes, and right now it's exclusive to the fans who sign up on my Patreon page. This is the type of thing that this artist is doing. And honestly, for Kimbra, it's really about creative control. She really wants creative control. This quote from her, as the years have gone by, I've become more and more independent as a way to have complete creative control of my output. This Patreon is a way to both help fund projects and bring you all into my world. So there's that unique connection piece that you get in something like this. Open Mike Eagle does this really cool socks that are like only available there. Of course, he also has like a Shopify store or whatever. Like he has like a different thing. But in the membership, he puts unique stuff that you can't get anywhere else. And I think that's the key to membership. Amanda Palmer, she does really cool stuff too. These are postcards from the road that she does for her fans. Also, Amanda's really famous. She'll fly into a city and she'll find like a 50-person bar and she'll invite only her patrons into that bar and just do a private concert for her patrons. She does it all the time before the big major gig that she's performing. Another really cool thing you can do. This is our CEO, Jack Connie. He's got a band, Scary Pockets, and it's a jazz band. It's got like 9 or 10 folks in it. And what he's done is he's created playing cards for every member of the band. And you get like one card every 2 months. So it's sort of like if you want to collect the whole band, it keeps you in the membership for a long time. It's a really clever use of Patreon. This is one of my favorites. I'm a member of Brandon Stanton. This is not a musician. This is a photographer, illustrator. Some of you may have heard of Humans of New York. Brandon joined Patreon, and it was just a runaway success. I mean, it was really, really big, way bigger than he had ever imagined it would be. And so what Brandon's done is he just helps other photographers now. And so you can imagine one day when I got this post from Brandon that was like all about Paul in Ghana and how Brandon's like, Patreon's been so successful for me that now I'm just taking all the money from you patrons and I'm giving it to other photographers to help them rise up. That's powerful. That's really cool. And that's something an artist can do that's really unique and authentic. Gary Newman is really interesting. I like this quote because it really says a lot about social media. I think any of us who have big followings, we have those trolls in there and we have people just saying whatever the hell comes to mind because it's anonymous. What Gary's saying here is social media is great. It can offer things that are valuable and informative, but it's like having a beautiful garden with no fence. Anyone can just wander in, start trouble, cause damage, and leave. So for Gary, it's not it's not a money-driven thing for Gary. For Gary, it's about, I want to have a community here that is gated and people are respectful and they're all here for a singular purpose. And that's really the primary reason that Gary joined. So those are just a few examples of how artists are using Patreon today. And they're really fun to think about because what I'm trying to build, I'm the head of product, right? My job is to build this product and make it better all the time. And all I do all day is think about how can I make a better connection between an artist and their fans? What's the unique piece of merch or a unique interaction or something cool I can do to keep that connection really strong? So if you remember anything from this presentation, remember that we think art is valuable. And I honestly know people say, well, of course it is. I'm in a room full of people who appreciate art. But do you really? What do you think about when you watch a song on YouTube? Do you understand where the money's going? Are we valuing art when we do that? I know it's easy. It's the easiest way to consume that stuff. But I would challenge us to think about what is valuable about art, because the internet is broken. It's not designed for the people who make stuff. It's designed for the gatekeepers. And just keep in mind, fans in the future, they want a connection not just to the file or the CD or the download or whatever. They want a connection to the artist. And that connection is going to be worth more and more over time. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this, Wyatt. That was really cool, and I think we got a few questions in as well. So let's pull up that Slido and take a quick look. 5 top questions. Let's start with the first one. What type of data does Patreon collect?
So Patreon is not an ad platform. We don't make any money from ads. So we're not interested in browser history or any of the data that a regular tech company would be interested in. We are a payments platform. We collect payments. So we have to take all the data about a person's credit card and all those things. And that's a very typical interaction you would have with any other e-commerce platform. But because we're not ad-driven, we're not interested in all the other data around a person other than just enough to get the transaction.
Okay. Mr. Nice Guy asks, what's the advantage for Patreon membership comparing with YouTube channel membership?
I love this. I love that so YouTube is just copying Patreon at this point. It's pixel for pixel. They're like, that's a good idea. We should do that. And I think, the interesting thing about YouTube, you have to think about the machine. YouTube, by the way, is amazing. Like, what an incredible product. It's changed the world. So this isn't about YouTube being good or bad. For us, it's about what's right for artists. And while I respect the hell out of YouTube and think it's amazing, I'm not sure it's the best business model for artists. And that's really the point that I try to make on this. And so when you think about YouTube adding a membership, think about what the machine naturally is going to do. The machine is designed to keep your attention. So you're going to go on YouTube, it's going to show you cool stuff, and then it's going to show you recommendations. It's going to keep those eyeballs as long as it can. But it kind of switches you back and forth. Look at this content, look at this content. It's going to be the same with a membership. So if I'm a fan of something, I'm like, I like this thing, I'm going to become a member. Click, and I become a member. Then YouTube feeds me stuff, and I'm like digesting it. And then 5 minutes later, I like this one too. I'm going to become a member here. I'm going to unclick that one. You see how the power isn't with the artist, it's not with the creator? That machine wasn't designed for that. So I think the key difference is this is a purpose-built product where the end user is the creator. So everything we do is designed to fund the creative class. And I think it just ends up in a different space.
All right. Next question is, for musicians using Patreon to make money, what should they consider to contain their intrinsic value? Their art, the music, or the access to them, the artist?
This is very personal. Like I said in the beginning, there's those artists who like to kind of go into a cave for like 6 months. They don't ever like to interact with their fans. That's probably a different type of membership. Maybe it's only exclusive content or something that keeps distance, because it's really about you as an artist and like what you like interacting with, So this question is just, it depends on who the artist is. A lot of artists today love interacting with their fans, especially their super fans, especially the folks that really love them and care about what they do. So I would definitely, we created Patreon to have all these different benefits. I would mix and match the benefits that work right for you as an artist, and depending on how close of that connection you want to have. Some artists do like a monthly video chat with their top tier. They get on there, they chat with all the folks, and they spend that kind of time, and they like it. Other artists, they have a manager that deals with it, and they just feed it exclusive content, and they have like a little bit more arm's length. You got to do what works for you. We found that folks that like to engage tend to be more successful, for what it's worth. That's just a trend.
Okay, so there's more and more questions coming in. I think
Great.
you're in. Cool. I think the membership approach is very similar to crowdfunding. This
Yeah.
concept recently imploded with Pledge Music. How are you different?
Well, we're not going to run out of money, so there's that. And that unfortunately is what happened to Pledge Music. So Patreon started as a crowdfunding platform. Like, it's not a secret. Jack was just sick of YouTube, and he went and said, "Hey, just fund me so I can make videos." The difference is it was a recurring payment, not a one-time. And so when you have somebody in a recurring payment for a long period of time, it becomes a lot more than crowdfunding. It becomes a relationship. And so that was why there was crowdfunding language used about Patreon back in 2013 and 2014 when it started. And now membership is a better word, or like Next Gen Fan Club, because it's this long-standing relationship between you and your fans. And so it's pretty different than crowdfunding, because the origination of crowdfunding is this Kickstarter concept where you're funding a thing for an ephemeral period of time, right? It has a start and it has a finish, and then the project's over. But that's not how artists work, right? We create and we create and we create, and there are many projects. Patreon was designed for that. So that's how it's different than crowdfunding.
Okay, nice one. And then, do you know of any cases in which multiple creators work together and share their fan bases? Yeah,
Patreon has subtle network effects. So like when a bunch of a certain type of creator join, a lot of those fans tend to kind of like share a lot. And we do have functionality on the site today that lets an artist recommend other artists that they respect. Now, Patreon, we are careful not to step in between the relationship between a fan and their artist, so we don't recommend today. We don't say, hey, Because, if you're an artist and you brought all your fans, it's kind of fucked up if we say, oh, thank you for bringing those fans. Hey, will you come check out these other artists? So Patreon is really a platform built for artists, which is why we don't recommend, but we offer functionality that lets creators recommend other creators.
Okay, and we have 3 more questions, and then I think we're going to wrap it up. Oh, it's just 2. Okay. What are the 3 things that upcoming artists do waste most of the potential money that could be collected by their art?
Hold on. I don't know if I know the answer. And that's not to say it's not a good question. I think it's more of a broad question about what up-and-coming artists do that isn't a really good use of their time, if I parrot the question back. And I actually don't know, because we haven't ever done that type of research. I can tell you that a lot of creators, when they decide to join Patreon, they put so much into their membership. They're packing all these things into every single tier that it becomes a lot of work. And to those creators, I always say, hold on, just do the stuff you were going to do anyway. If you were going to make a song, give it a sneak peek or something, but don't create a bunch of extra work for yourself, because your fans don't want you to do a bunch of extra work. Your fans want you to make the stuff that you already make. So try to make this more of a lightweight approach. And I think I see a lot of up-and-coming Patreon creators just go too far in that direction.
Okay, and so one more question. What do you think is the point in which an artist should join Patreon? At the start of their career, or once they've already gathered a bit of a fan base? And I think we can connect that to the other question, which is, does Patreon work only with independent artists or with label artists?
We recommend Patreon once you have a fan base. There are so many better channels for building audience. We're never going to compete with Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. That stuff is purpose-built for eyeballs because it's driven by ad revenue. We're not driven by ad revenue, so we aren't designed to build your fan base. Build somewhat of a fan base somewhere else, and once you think you've got enough, build a membership for your true supporters that are going to be with you for a long period of time. We work with anybody. There's crazy use cases of Patreon. It's a tiered membership product, and there are wild use cases outside of music. So yeah, any label or anyone could try this out if they want to give it a try. Anyone can sign up.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Wyatt, and give one more
Thanks,
round of
everyone.
applause. Thanks.